You're listening to the Chain Clankers podcast with your hosts, Quentin Ferris and Horatio Gonzalez. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers. Welcome in, everyone, to the Chain Clankers podcast. I'm your host, Quentin Ferris, joined here, as always, with Horatio Gonzalez. We've got a great episode for you guys today. On today's show, we're going to be talking 5 things you didn't know UDisc could do. It's going to be a great show. I feel as though a lot of newer and casual players maybe have heard of UDisc, but they might not have known of all the special features that UDisc has and that you can do with UDisc. It's honestly a really incredible app. Super glad that we have it and we've unlocked its capability. Stay tuned through the end of the episode to find out all of the 5 things that you did not know about UDisc that you can do moving forward, as well as a bonus for listening all the way through the end, we are each going to throw in one thing that we wish UDisc would make possible in the future that would make it even better. Let's bring in our co-host today. Let's bring in Horatio. Horatio, how are we doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this. I think this is one of the most beneficial things people can find early on. I know we found it pretty early, and it's a really sweet app, and I try to tell people to download it. As soon as they start playing, just download it. At first, it's free, and then if you want to keep more scorecards, I think after like 10 or something, it makes you want to pay. And then, which I didn't for a while, and then I realized it was like $5 for a year. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is totally worth it. For as much stuff as it has, it's totally worth to pay. If you have a PDGA, it's free. So yeah, that's pretty cool too.
And I guess a bonus thing that maybe people didn't know is that the UDisc has like a special code or something that you can click on, and you can actually get $5 off of your PDGA membership. So that's pretty neat as well, I think. Yes. But why don't you kick us off with the first thing that people might not have known about UDisc?
Yeah, and so these obviously are for newer players or people who have not downloaded the app yet, stuff that you may have not known. Obviously, if you've had it for a while, you're going to know most of these things, but it's still pretty cool stuff.
Honestly, half the things on here I honestly didn't even know about until, and we've been playing for a while until we started doing this show and started, taking our game to the next level. I didn't really know about most of these things outside maybe just 1 or 2 of them. But yeah, go ahead with the first one.
The first one is practice games, and you can do on there. It's under you do the more tab, and you go to accuracy practice, and it also has putting practice. And what it'll have you do is, if you're doing putting practice, if you put it in circle 1, you do so many shots and you get points for the closer you put it to the basket. And basically you try to go for a high score, and that's a way to compete with yourself. If you're in a backyard, if you have a basket, you can do that and try to beat your score every time you play, instead of just randomly sitting there putting for hours. And the other one is accuracy practice, which is pretty much similar. You can do short, which is 30 or 100 to 200 feet, medium 200 to 300, and long 300 to 400. So this is kind of more for your up shots after you've had a drive and you kind of want to practice on your up shots. If you go, let's say, to short, it'll kind of have you do the same thing. Parked is 10 points, circle 1, 7 points, circle 2 is 2 points. And then you just try to gain, again, a high score. And then that's something, if you go out by yourself, you can beat every time you go out to the same course and just try to get better at it. So I think those are really cool, especially for off season. And if you're not going to be playing many tournaments, you can go out and just practice your up shots, which I think that is crucial. I know today I played with my buddy, and his up shots were it's what killed his round pretty much. So that's something that's really beneficial. What's the next one you got for us?
Yeah, I think those are really cool, and I think it is one of those things where you can actually get so much value out of it. Maybe so much so we should do a YouTube video on it sometime.
Yeah.
And just, do
a game
challenge for it. Yeah, do an actual little game for it. It's definitely something that has improved my upshot significantly, and I've almost kind of started to come to the conclusion that the upshot is one of the most, if not the most important part of the game, because let's say you outdrive me by 100 feet, but if my upshot is better than yours and I'm closer to the pin, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to be getting a 3, and potentially you could be getting a 4 or worse, or a 3 as well, and we're pretty much at the same thing. So really that upshot's super important. So this is definitely a fast way to get better at your upshot. Before we move on to the second one, I do want to read off some of the Apple Podcast reviews we've gotten. If you guys are a listener of this show on Apple Podcasts, we would highly, highly, highly appreciate seeing any of your ratings and reviews coming through on Apple Podcasts. So I want to read what's come in this week. So this week we've got one from Jesse Drew 95, giving it a 5 stars, saying solid disc golf podcast. This is a solid podcast where the guys talk about their own experiences with disc golf. They are kind of taking the listener along this journey with them as they try to get better, explore tournaments, etc. If you are a casual disc golfer thinking of taking the sport more seriously, then this podcast is for you. They have also been able to secure some big name guests so far in just a few episodes. Thank you, Jesse, for the kind words. If you're listening out there and you want to be featured on the show, leave us a rating and review. We'll read it off next week. And potential spoiler, we haven't completely secured the bag yet, but 2020 USDGC Championship winner Chris Dickerson might be coming on the podcast sometime in November. So if you have not hit the subscribe button already, you should hit the subscribe button, because we have an amazing offseason lined up for you guys. So definitely do that. Hit that subscribe button, leave us a rating and review. We'd love to read them. We'd love to hear them. Let us know some shows that you might want to see, maybe some segments you might want to see. Definitely let us know. Let's get back into the top 5 things you probably didn't know about UDisc. Let's start here with number 2, I guess. Measure throw. Measure throw is one of the best things, in my opinion, you can do to get better at disc golf using UDisc. The reason that I say that is because what it is, it's pretty much GPS tracking. So if you're one of those folk who like trying to stay off the grid, all that stuff, I just count your steps when you go out to your discs. But, I personally will use this when I go out to the field, and I will post up. And it does take a little bit because it is tracking your phone's location. So honestly, I'll just turn it on, and then while I throw 3 or 4 discs, I'll kind of let it zone in, because it'll let you know where you're at. You know, it'll let you know a plus or minus. The best number I've ever seen is 14, but most of the time I get 16 feet of a plus or minus. That's kind of like the best location tracking it has on you, where, you know, fair is anywhere from 20 to 25-ish feet, and then it starts to get poor after that, which is, I mean, understandable. The more feet away it is, the bigger variance it is, it's going to be a little bit worse. So you just kind of want to wait for that to get to where it's at that 16-foot range and it's saying best. And then you're just going to hit start measuring. And then from there, you're just going to walk out to your disc wherever it is. And the really cool thing about this, I didn't know, is you can actually do multiple throws. You can measure multiple throws at once. You just have to hit the back arrow instead of hitting the X button and completely getting out of the more option. So in doing so, you just want to walk out to your disc, and when you get to your disc, you're going to stand there for a couple seconds, really make sure your tracking is correct. And keep in mind, it is going to be plus or minus 16-ish feet, but it's going to be relatively accurate. And when you're talking about something that is, you know, 16 feet plus or minus, that's really not that big of a difference, in my opinion. I mean, if you're right up next to the basket, then obviously, yes, that's a difference. But when you're just throwing out in the field and, you know, something is 330 and another, and it could be 346, like, in my opinion, that's really not that big of a difference. But anyways, you go out, you go to your disc, and then it's going to ask you, what did you throw? So you can put in the type of disc that you just threw. I have got a ton of different discs in there. If you listen to our episode on what's in our bag, highly recommend doing it. We kind of have 2 different styles, one of which Horatio has a much more condensed bag of a lot of the same discs, just maybe different plastics or different beat-in discs that will fly a little bit differently, where I have multiple different discs and not very many molds. I have started to get a lot more molds and kind of cut back and kind of get closer to where Horatio is, but I still do have a good amount of discs, so my option is definitely very big. But from there, you can then, you know, type in the disc. You can put all the information in about the disc, and then it will ask you, what kind of shot did you throw? You put that in, you save it. You can create a custom share image. It's honestly really cool. If you're following us on Instagram, which, hey, For those of you who are following us on Instagram, thank you, thank you, thank you. We just recently crossed 400 Instagram followers. We haven't really been doing this for that long, and we do really appreciate it. Thank you guys for hitting that follow button. If you haven't already, definitely go over and do so. We've got some awesome content up over there. We played around in the cold yesterday, and we put up some cool shots from that. So definitely go and check that out. But anyways, really, it's nice because you can get an idea of how far discs go. You can, at least for me, it's also been like, okay, well, I know that's about 200 feet, so I need to get there. What kind of shot do I need to get there? You know, what kind of shot do I need to get to 300 feet? How does this disc fly? If I throw this disc on a hyzer angle, is it going to go further than an anhyzer angle? I can actually do that scientific research. I can understand what I'm doing in my form to see what's allowing me to throw the disc further. So I really think that the measure throw is something that everyone needs to be using, and it's something that only takes a couple of short seconds, but definitely, in my opinion, could use a little bit of upgrades, you know, maybe a little bit more precise tracking, but I do still think it's really, really good. Sometimes I'll use it out on the course, not a whole lot, because I'm just more focused on what's going on in the round, so it's definitely something I use a lot more for practice, but I have used it a couple times on the course, and it's kind of nice to know how far I am. You know, if I know a hole is 400 feet and I threw it 310 feet, I know I've got 90 feet to go, so it can kind of help me if you don't have the money for a Bushnell rangefinder, you know, can maybe kind of help you out with there, kind of knowing how far away you are. But I think it's really, really cool. I definitely think it's something that you should incorporate into your field sessions, and maybe sometimes when you're out there on the course. Horatio, what do you have for the third thing that people might not have known that UDisc can do?
Yep. So one that we've actually used quite a bit, and it's one of the main tabs down at the bottom of UDisc. It's events, and it sounds pretty cool. You can set it based off of your location if you want, and then it'll show you events for the whole year by calendar, and you just scroll and kind of look at what events are coming up. And one cool thing is, depending on the leagues in your area, my league here locally actually puts league nights into here, so I can look at like when league nights are, when they're playing, where they're playing at, and you can it'll take you like, for instance, I'm looking at one here. It's the Dynamic Discs presents Fall Fun at the Farm. It tells me November 14th, Winfield, Kansas, Saturday. It's a C tier. It's a PDGA event, and then I can even click in the link directly to the registration, go in there and register to the event, all from the UDisc app. So that's really nice. And one thing that's similar to the events, I guess, kind of, because that one's kind of a little quick and basic, is leaderboards. So you can also look at leaderboards to see how people are scoring in your area at local courses, or see what kind of scores people are putting down at different events, at different courses. And you can save those for yourself. So if you score around, you can save it, and you don't have to make those public unless you want to. I know my scores I usually just keep for myself, for my personal records, but that one is pretty cool. I like to check it every now and then, 'cause sometimes they'll add new events you can see, or if there's updates, you can also look at that. But what's the next one you got for us?
Yeah, so the next one that I've got for us is actually the courses tab. And if you've ever used UDisc, you've probably seen the courses tab. If you're new and you're probably this whole episode, you're like, what the heck is UDisc? UDisc is the number one, in my opinion, number one disc golf app out there on the App Store right now. It's free to download. Like Horatio said, it does cost a little bit more if you want some of those pro features. So, check it out if that's something that you want. But it's something where, you can do so many different things, but you can also keep, like I said earlier, the events and the measure throw. So something else that you can do with it is, being able to take those rounds that you're playing with your friends and have those scorecards, which is really cool. But the third thing that I wanted to talk about was the courses tab. The courses tab is really cool because you can look at what courses are around you that maybe you haven't gone to. Maybe you just think there's the one course that's right down the street from you and you haven't explored the other courses around in your town, as well as it gives you a distance tab that, you can go out 10 miles, you can go out 25 miles, you can go out 50 miles, or maybe even more. And that's something that I think is really cool because you can kind of explore around your area without actually having to drive out to the course to figure it out. And something that I always do when I go on to the courses tab is I will do it by rating. So that way I know what is the top rated course near me. What is the, because the worst thing you want to do is go to this one course here. I'm on like 25 miles distance and I have it sorted by rating. The worst course here is a 2.4 rated course and it literally says caution. I don't even know if this course is a thing anymore. But yeah, so that's definitely something you want to look out for. Like one of the courses near me, you actually have to pay to play, and it lets me know that it's pay to play with a little $sign on there, which is really, really cool. And something also that a lot of people might not have known, you can click onto the course. It'll tell you exactly where it is. You can create a scorecard right there from the course itself, as well as there's user updated pictures, which is really, really cool. You can add your own photos. It gives you a little bit of a description about the course and what kind of baskets, what kind of tee signs it has, what kind of tee pads as well. And it shows you all the potential different layouts of the course. So it'll show you, hole 1, for example, on this course is 213 and it's a par 3. And so it'll do that for all of them, as well as you can update the layouts in case maybe it's changed. And there's something that's really cool and something that kind of determines the ratings is the reviews that are on there, and you can actually leave a review of it, leave a rating. That will then kind of change how it is in the system, which is really, really nice to have. Horatio, what do you have for the fourth thing on our list today?
The fourth one I got for us today is rules, which I think is one that's super important. You can use it, I guess, if you're just learning. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I've seen on like Facebook groups or like disc golf groups, and people will ask questions about like disc golf or something. Like, oh, what do you guys think about this? Or like, what in this situation, like, is this correct or not? Basically asking for rules. And that's fine. People are going to help you out. But I mean, some people depend. I don't know how your Facebook groups are, but if you don't feel like getting attacked by a bunch of trolls, then this is really cool because you can go into the app and look at the rules and regulations and learn for yourself and educate yourself. And so, especially if you're out on a tournament where it's PDGA sanctioned and it's by the rules, it's not just a fun round with your buddies where you can, oh yeah, I'm gonna throw again or whatever. You can pull up the rules during a tournament and protect yourself. If someone's telling you you're doing something wrong, you're like, no, I'm pretty sure that was correct. And you can pull up the rule book and show it to them. And there's no really arguing that. So I think that's one that's super important. Even if you don't play tournaments, if you're playing tournaments next year, you haven't done one yet, look through the rules and regulations. That way, when you go out there, you know, like you actually know what you're doing and you seem like a more educated player, and you don't have to be confused on what you can and cannot do. Something as simple as different positions you can take from your disc. If you're under a branch and you need to take a knee, what stances you're allowed to take. So all sorts of stuff. I know one player that's super known for knowing like all the rules is Paul Macbeth, and he's one of the greatest players in the world and in history to ever play the sport. And I think part of that is because he learned the rule book and he was able to do stuff that people maybe they didn't think they could do or get away with, but he's protected by the rules. So that's something definitely people should check out, and doesn't seem as cool thing to do in UDisc, but very important if you haven't checked that out yet.
Yeah, I think honestly, this is really dope because it's not a bunch of different links. Like, it's literally all right there. It's all very clear, concise, easy to read. So yeah, it's really awesome. It's got rules. It's got the competition manual. So definitely something you should check out. Now, if you're listening along and you heard me say, what is the fourth item on our list? You're probably confused. That was actually number 5. I just messed up our count. So we're through all 5 now. So let's talk about the 2 things that we wish UDisc would add. So Horatio, kick us off with the first one.
Yeah, so one that I've actually thought about in the past, and I would like, because I'll see, again, people on the Facebook groups, and they'll talk about like, hey, I'm going to go play this course later at 12 o'clock, or hey, who's down to play around tomorrow at this time, or just looking for a buddy, someone to play with, because everyone's pretty friendly here where I'm at. And so I think one thing would be really cool is like a live location feed where you can check into a course. You have UDisc pulled up, someone else pulls up, and they see, oh, there's 5 people here. There's and if you're live scoring on the scorecard, you see, oh, so and so is on hole 5. I'm gonna hit them up and be like, hey, can I join your round and go play with them? Or if you see someone's you show up by yourself and you just want someone to play with, it'd be a cool way to meet people. You see someone, obviously if you have your live location on, it's because you're okay with people coming up to you and playing with you. So it'd be like, oh, hey, I saw you were on UDisc, you want to play around, and just jump in with them. Be a cool way to meet people, a cool way to pick up tips from other players. So I think that would be really cool. That way people wouldn't have to kind of just figure out who's out playing or try to, make meets. So that'd be something cool.
Yeah, it would also be cool in my opinion because you could, like, for example, let's say you want to go to Oak Park, which is pretty close to you. It's one of your courses you go to a lot. Let's say you want to go there and you check on UDisc and there's like 30 people there. Well, it's like, well, maybe I don't want to go there now. Maybe I'll go find a course with a little less foot traffic so that way I'm not constantly playing on top of someone, constantly getting played on top of. And so that would be really dope to have, as well as, like you were saying, yeah, you can, maybe there's a notification or something you can put on there where it's like, hey, I'm looking to play around with somebody. Here it is. And yeah, you can meet up with people, play rounds, and do those kinds of things. And I think that would be really cool. The idea that I had that I would like to see UDisc add, and I don't exactly know how feasible this is. It would be kind of difficult, but it would be something kind of like a line chart. So like, what kind of lines are people taking on these courses? If you're not exactly sure what I'm talking about, think of it a lot like, what kind of route are you taking to get to the basket? When you release a disc, where are you aiming for? Like, what is the route from where you're at to the basket or wherever you're attempting to throw to? That's kind of like the line in disc golf. So it could be some sort of, maybe it's a drawing, maybe it's a picture of the map, the little image that they have on the T sign, and you could draw your own little line on there that you take to get to it. Or maybe you are able to take a picture of the tee box and you can draw on the picture what route you are taking to get to the basket. I think that might be something that's really cool because it can open up a lot of different shots that maybe you didn't even know existed or knew that you could do in the first place. Yeah. So I think that's something that would make it more fun. And maybe you're like, oh, I'm going to try Horatio's line on hole 12 this one, and I'm going to go with the massive spike heiser over the trees. I never even thought about that before. Let me try it and see how it works out. Or maybe you're going to go with Q's shot of the low forehand skip shot and see if that works out for you. So maybe that would also help newer players being like, oh, well, what should I throw here? What's a good disc to throw in this? And you can give wind conditions. Oh, if it's a tailwind, you want to throw something like this. If it's a headwind, you want to throw something like this, which I think would be pretty cool, and it would help a lot of players, maybe just kind of determine what to throw and be a little bit more methodical with the throw that they do on that hole, I guess.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much all we got for today's show. We know it wasn't super long, but we did want to just kind of give these things about UDisc that we kind of thought about, maybe some things that they can add to it as well. These are things that until I really, really, really heavily was using it, I didn't really know these things about UDisc. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode as well. If you have episode suggestions, some things that you want to see, definitely let us know in the comments. Let us know in DMs on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those kinds of things. Again, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, definitely make sure you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate each and every single one of you out there who are listening into this, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Chain Clankers podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chain Clankers and hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to us from so you never miss another episode.